After months of setbacks, fabrication nightmares, and a parts war with one of the world's most exclusive car manufacturers, the moment has finally arrived. The Bugatti Chiron, a car that was literally split in half, moved under its own power today with Matt behind the wheel. And his first words? "This is scary." The Chiron was agonizingly close to its first drive. The interior was installed, the engine was running, and the car felt ready. Then, during a pressure test, disaster struck, and it came from the most unlikely source. Bob had fabricated a radiator entirely from scratch. Not sourced, not modified. Built from raw materials, by hand, to replace a component that Bugatti refused to supply. It was an extraordinary piece of work. And it worked perfectly, right up until it got destroyed in shipping. The radiator branch stuck out of the cardboard box. Bob had cut holes in the packaging to accommodate it, but somewhere in transit, the box was dropped. That single impact was enough to dent the core and break the seal. A radiator that had survived the fabrication process, the test fits, and weeks of preparation was wrecked by a courier. Bob had no choice but to start over. He cut off every custom-fabricated tank and fitting he'd spent hours machining, sourced a new commercial radiator core, and welded everything back on from scratch. That alone would have broken most people. But then the second radiator arrived, and there was a new problem. When Bob went to fit the replacement core against the existing radiator, something was immediately wrong. The new core measured 66 millimeters wide. The old one had been 65. Just 1 millimeter of difference, barely the thickness of a fingernail, but enough to throw the entire mounting system out of alignment. The brackets didn't line up. Bob had to modify them, shift fittings by 5 millimeters, and re-weld everything. Then, during installation, they spotted moisture. The relocated fittings were leaking, tiny pinholes left by the welding process. All 39 liters of coolant had to be drained. The radiators came back out. And at that point, Matt decided he was going to step in and fix it himself. He'd watched Bob TIG weld dozens of times. He knew the technique, understood the theory, and felt confident enough to have a go. It did not go well. Within minutes, it was clear that watching someone weld and actually welding are two very different things. Bob was called back. Some skills, it turns out, cannot be absorbed by observation alone, and a multi-million-pound Bugatti is not the ideal classroom. While Bob battled the radiators, Matt continued tracing the Chiron's parts back to their origins, and what he found was remarkable. The fuse box, damaged in the original crash, turned out to be a direct carryover from the Lamborghini Gallardo. Bolt-in fitment. No modification required. The secondary air pump, which had gone mysteriously missing somewhere along the way, was a Volkswagen part. Same mounting points, same electrical connections, sitting inside one of the most expensive cars ever built. The crash sensors for the airbag system came from a Porsche. So, to summarize, Porsche crash sensors, Audi A3 airbags, Volkswagen secondary air pump, Lamborghini Gallardo fuse box. All inside a car with a Bugatti badge and a multi-million-pound price tag. It confirms what the rebuild has been quietly revealing for months. Bugatti, at its mechanical core, is a Volkswagen Group parts bin exercise with extraordinary engineering layered on top, and an extraordinary price tag layered on top of that. The idea that this car requires exclusive Bugatti-only components, sourced only through official Bugatti channels, has been steadily dismantled with every replacement part that fits perfectly first time. But of everything Bob produced during this rebuild, the most impressive piece wasn't either of the radiators. It was the front crash bar. The original had been completely destroyed in the accident. Not bent, not cracked, destroyed. And this isn't a minor structural piece. The front crash bar is the anchor point for the bumper, the front splitter, the horseshoe grille badge, the alarm, the horn, the crash sensors, and the bonnet latch. If it's even slightly out of alignment, none of those components function correctly. The bonnet won't close properly. The crash sensors won't seat. The entire front end falls out of square. Matt attempted to arrange access to another Chiron for 3D scanning, just to get accurate reference dimensions for the crash bar. Every owner he approached said no. Nobody was willing to pull apart a running, pristine Chiron just to scan a single component. And without a scan, without drawings, without any technical data from Bugatti, the conventional wisdom was clear: it's too hard. You can't fabricate something that complex without knowing exactly what it's supposed to look like. Bob disagreed. He took the destroyed original, mangled, compressed, barely recognizable, and used it as his only reference. Over the course of more than 60 hours, he cut, welded, filed, heated, and bent aluminium of the same grade Bugatti uses into a complete replica. Every mounting point, every curve, every rivet and tapped thread in the correct position at the correct depth. He worked entirely by eye, by experience, and by instinct. When he brought the finished part to the workshop and Matt test fitted it to the chassis, the bolt holes lined up on the first attempt. Perfect alignment. No adjustment needed. That is not fabrication. That is craftsmanship at a level that most professional engineers, with full tooling and factory data, would struggle to match. With the crash bar fitted and the radiators finally leak-free, the cooling system could be filled for the first time. 39 liters of coolant. For context, most performance cars carry between 8 and 12 liters. The Chiron's W16 engine, 16 cylinders, 4 turbochargers, 1,500 horsepower, demands nearly 4 times that volume just to stay at a safe operating temperature. They used vacuum filling, connecting a vacuum pump to the expansion tank, drawing negative pressure through the entire system, and letting atmospheric pressure push the coolant in automatically. Bucket after bucket disappeared into the car. It was midnight in the US. 6:30 in the morning in Ireland, where Bob was following along. The pressure gauge held steady. No leaks. The tap opened, and coolant began rushing through the system. Then came the engine start. Matt fired it up and watched the temperature gauge begin its climb. 48 degrees. Climbing steadily. The target was 90 degrees Celsius, the point where the thermostat opens fully and the fans take over. 80 degrees. 90. The fans kicked in. The temperature continued rising slightly, 94, then 201 Fahrenheit, before stabilizing. The fans cycled. The temperature held. No overheating. No leaks. Bob's hand-fabricated radiators, built around commercial Honda Civic cores, were successfully cooling a 1,500 horsepower Bugatti W16 engine. Everything Bugatti claimed required proprietary factory components and specialist facilities had just been achieved with commercially available parts and one exceptionally skilled fabricator working out of an independent workshop. With the cooling system proven, Matt prepared for the first drive. There was no windscreen. The front end was only temporarily assembled. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't finished. But mechanically, the car was ready, and at some point, you have to stop preparing and start driving. This was also Matt's first time ever driving a Chiron. Not his first time driving it since the rebuild. His first time ever in any Chiron. Under any circumstances. And the circumstances here were about as far from ideal as it's possible to imagine. The engine fired. The transmission engaged. The car moved. It's scary as well, at the same time. This car was literally in half. That fear is completely understandable. Matt didn't just buy this car and repair it. He cut it in two. He watched the subframe come apart. He was present for every weld, every fabricated bracket, every part that shouldn't fit but did. He knows exactly what this car went through, and now he's sitting in it, accelerating, trusting that every decision made over the past several months was the right one. He tested the acceleration. Briefly, carefully. Even a short pull was enough to feel the full force of 1,500 horsepower pushing through a car with no windscreen, no front splitter, and a driver running purely on adrenaline. This is what the rebuild has been building toward. A car that Bugatti said could not be fixed without factory support. A car that Matthias Ramat, Bugatti's CEO, publicly described as beyond independent repair. A car that was cut in half, stripped to its chassis, and rebuilt piece by piece. With commercial parts, fabricated components, and knowledge that was earned the hard way. The Chiron isn't finished. There's still no windscreen, no final paint, and Alex hasn't even seen the completed car yet. But the hardest question, the one that sat over this entire project from the beginning, has been answered. It runs. It drives. And it does it without a single part supplied by Bugatti. Subscribe, because when this car is finally complete, it will be the most emphatic rebuttal to automotive gatekeeping ever put on four wheels.